All right, so some people are still trickling in, but I think we can get started. So good morning, and my name is Maggie Massey, and I'm a senior environmental scientist working on CDFW's Cannabis Restoration Grant Program. And we are here today for an overview of the WebGrants application workshop. And before we get started, this is being recorded, and a copy of the recording of the presentation will go on our grants webpage for your reference later. Also, everyone will be on mute throughout the presentation to reduce any echoing or background noises. If you have any questions, please type your questions into the chat section to Janice Mackey. If they're related to a specific section or slide that we're going over, we will try and answer it on the spot. Any other questions will be addressed at the end, or if it is project related, you will be asked to email our CAN grant program at wildlife.ca.gov. In today's workshop, we plan to provide you some links and resources for the Watershed Restoration Enhancement Solicitation. We are also providing an overview of the WebGrants application system, go over some parts of the application, give some tips for submitting complete proposals, tentative time schedule, and then address any questions or comments either throughout the presentation or at the end. Very briefly, all the solicitation information and resources are available on our webpage, where you can find links to the final solicitation. You can also find the presentation we had going over the draft solicitation, along with the recording and associated FAQ document, which will be upgraded throughout the application process with relevant questions and answers. But for the main goal and purpose of this presentation, we are here to go over the online submission of proposals on WebGrants. So again, even though we provided a Word version of the application on our webpage, this is just for reference. All applications must be submitted through WebGrants, and it must be received by 4 p.m. on May 14th, 2021. First off, if you are new to WebGrants, you must register to create an account and do this as soon as possible. You cannot apply to the solicitation without an active WebGrants user account. And multiple users can work on the same application, but they must have their own user account. Returning applicants, which are those who have submitted an application on WebGrants before, you do not need to re-register. You can use your existing user ID and password. And if you have applied using WebGrants before, but have changed organizations, please contact the WebGrants help desk to link your account with a different organization. To create an account, you will have to go to the WebGrants homepage and you would click register here. It would then direct you to the registration form, and all fields marked with an asterisk need to be filled out. And please do not provide any personal contact information. This is just business contact information. So even personal information section, this is listing business email, business address, and contact information. The organizational information is what we will use to determine the applicant's eligibility for the solicitation. And the organization tax ID is not necessary at this stage, so you can put NA, but a tax ID will be necessary for submitting the application. Once that information is filled out and submitted, it will go to the WebGrants administration, and WebGrants admin must approve the registration before the user may log in and start the application. Users will receive up to 3 confirmation emails confirming receipt, approval or denial of user registration, and then your password. And registration can take up to approximately 1 business day. Once you are approved, for a user ID and password, you can start the application process. And when you log in, this will be your home screen. And to navigate to the specific funding opportunity, you would click Funding Opportunities. It will then take you to the CRGP Watershed Remediation Enhancement Solicitation. And so you'd want to click that specific funding opportunity. And as this is a new grant solicitation, applicants have the one option for starting a new application because we have all different forms. So this page automatically opens up when you start a new application and provides general information. This page must be filled out and saved before the rest of the application can be completed. The primary contact is automatically populated for the person who started the application along with the authorized official, but this can be changed as necessary. And the authorized official is a representative of the applicant organization. And only the primary contact may make changes to the general information form after saving. And please keep the project title brief. And you can only select organizations that your account is linked to. And once you fill in that information, be sure to click Save before leaving this page. So once you click Save, this is the general information form that you will be led to. And if anything needs to be changed, you can click Edit. And when you click Edit, you can add additional contacts, additional users to the application, change the project name, and again, you'll want to select Save if any changes are made. To start a new application, you would go to Application Forms to see the entire application and main menu. All application forms are listed in the application main menu, and this acts as your checklist, and all forms must be completed to submit. And to navigate, you will click the form name, and it will bring you to each individual subsection. Each subsection is meant to tease out the project-specific details and gives the applicant the opportunity to describe the project to the reviewers. Form 1 is looking for more information on eligibility and which solicitation priority the project will be addressing. Form 2 is meant for project location details, where we ask for coordinates, pictures, maps when applicable, and even for planning projects, we request a map to show the extent of anticipated project boundaries if they're known. Form 3 is a place for applicants to really provide context for the project, where the reviewer can be provided details on the purpose and need, ecological significance, community support, experience of the team working on the project as well. Form 4 asks for status of any required environmental compliance and permits for the project. Form 5, the information in this form will be dependent on the nature of the project. If the project has specific on-the-ground activities, the landowner information must be provided and documentation showing adequate site control of the property or properties to be accessed and restored for a minimum of 10 years. The monitoring plan, either if it will be developed as a project task or one is being submitted in the application, needs to describe how project effectiveness will be evaluated. And for on-the-ground projects, it must be described how the project will deliver sustainable outcomes for at least 5 years for implementation projects and 2 years for refuse and infrastructure removal projects. Form 6, and really Form 6 through 7A and B, is looking for a blueprint of project specifics. Form 6 is for the timeline and deliverables for the project. It is also where we ask for the approach to achieve those deliverables and where the reviewer can really assess the project feasibility. 7A is a straightforward ask of the CDFW requested amount for the project based on specific groupings such as personnel services, general operating expenses, and subcontractors. 7B is a required Excel attachment called budget table, where it teases out hours, rates, line item equipment requests, subcontractor breakdown, cost share, and budget justifications. Form 8 is for additional documents that support your application or further describe your goals, and these are supplementary, not required. And finally, Form 9 is acknowledgement and signature form. So once you go through all the application forms and complete them, you can review each application individually or the application in its entirety by clicking Application Details. By clicking Application Details, you can then print or save. And it has been recommended to not use the print to PDF feature. And that's because including all, doing that, it will include all the attachments in PDF form to the printing and not just the text for the questions in the application. So when you're done reviewing, you can go back to forms by clicking Go to Application Form link. Once here, you can check to see if all the forms are complete. But to mark them complete, you can click on the form name individually, and at the top of each individual form, you have this selection of mark as complete. Once the forms are checked as complete, you can then submit. A thing to note is you cannot change your application after it is submitted. If anything does need to be changed, you will have to contact the help desk. And so I'm just going to do a brief demonstration for what the WebGrants interface looks like. And so you'll be given a login, and you'll want to use that to log in. And this is, should look familiar from the screenshots, but once you're given your login information, you'll want to find the funding opportunities. And again, opportunity type, CRGP, Watershed, Remediation, and Enhancement Solicitation 2021. Click that. And this is where you would want to start a new application. And you can see this looks familiar. You would want to fill in your primary contact, a brief title, authorized official, and organizational type. And then once you would do that, you would click save, and it would launch a new application for you. And one thing to note, and this is a pretty important detail, when navigating through WebGrants, you want to use the WebGrants back button. You do not want to use your web browser back button. And so here, once you would submit your new application information, you could be directed to the application main menu, where you will have just general WebGrants instructions, a link to the solicitation, and some help information here. So you can see here's our checklist. And for example, this is a good one to look over. So location information, you have specific form instructions here. And one thing to note is project location details. So this is a table that you'd be filling out. And you can see that the add button is highlighted here. And so you'd be able to add project location details. So for example, you can fill out this information, and I'm obviously just doing this for example. This is not accurate any sort of way, just to show what's going on. And so you filled out your information, you can return to the top, and you want to remember to click save. Click save, and you can see that your site number has been added. If you need to edit anything, you can click site number, and it will bring you back to this page, and you can delete or save it after you made a correction. So one thing you would also note is there's other sections that you need to fill out, but you don't have the ability right now. So for project maps and photos, what you'll need to do, since it's a different section within this form, navigate to the top and click Edit. One thing that you will know is when you're in Edit, this table form, you can no longer add or edit here, but you now have the ability to add to this lower section. And so you would upload your files, and if there's any sort of text box, you can fill that out. Again, return to top, and you would press save. When you press save, it takes you out of edit, and you have the ability to add to this table again. So that's just some tricks for some different types of data submissions that you'll be doing on WebGrants, and it can get a little tricky. And one thing I did want to point out again is once you fill in all that information, once you check that everything's correct on that form, you can see that here's the mark complete. You can, so another thing to note is that anything that is required, you have to fill out, because it won't let you do mark as complete. And if it's not applicable for, if it's a planning project, you do have the ability to say NA, but we do encourage all questions and information to be provided. Right. So some recommendations, as you could see when we were navigating through WebGrants, saving your progress as often as possible is highly recommended. Do not let the program get timed out, because most likely it won't save your work. We also recommend to start your application early. Do not wait to the last minute, because you also have to incorporate time to get a WebGrant user account. And we also will be strict with the 4 p.m. deadline on May 14th. Also, as I demonstrated, use the WebGrants back button to navigate, not your web browser back button. We also encourage you to work offline in the Word version of the application that we provided on the web page, and also, filling out the Excel budget table before you start your application process. Attachment file names must be brief, include your app number, and issues may arise if you have spaces or commas in the file name, so try and avoid that. And contact CDFW WebGrants Help Desk for any WebGrants questions or issues. Here are some application resources to assist with the process. And you would want to look at the solicitation, again, reviewing it for priorities and proposal requirements. The Word version of the application and Excel version of the budget template are here to get it all ready and for easier working and upload to WebGrants platform. There's also a user guide to help operate WebGrants, which will have some of the same screenshots that we have gone over today. And again, our web page where you can find all the necessary resources, updates, and announcements. Some tips for writing a proposal. We really encourage to read the solicitation and application instructions carefully. If you have any questions, please ask. And clearly address the criteria outlined in the solicitation. Make a clear tie between your project and the solicitation priorities. Connect the dots. We really want to make sure all the required information connects together, and the proposed work should justify the requested grant amount. We're also looking for a clear description of the proposed project where we can easily answer the questions below after reading the proposal. We really want to answer the who, what, when, where, why, and how. And all of these points are teased out within the forms within the application. So our current timeline, we've released the final solicitation. It was released on April 9th. And today is our WebGrants application workshop. The deadline for applications will be on May 14th at 4 p.m. And we plan to announce awards in late spring or early summer and anticipate having grant agreements executed by summer or fall. And project start date depends upon the grant agreement execution, and this can be dependent upon multiple factors, but work cannot begin or be reimbursed for until an executed grant agreement is in place. And again, here's some contact information for any WebGrant related questions. Email WebGrant Help Desk at cdfwwebgrant@wildlife.ca.gov. And for any general solicitation questions, email us at cangrantprogram@wildlife.ca.gov. And with that, we can take on any questions, and either please submit them through the chat or raise your hand or submit them through our email. Thank you.